Hi there, my name is Nadine. I'm Australia's immigration job search strategist, and I'm here to help you find a job in Australia. There's a few things that go against people when they apply for jobs in Australia, especially if they're applying from overseas. A lot of countries, for one, their CVs are different to what's expected in Australia. And they don't realise this, so when they're applying for jobs, quite often their CV doesn't get much more than a first glance. Another thing is that they don't always know where to look for the jobs. Most people think they're going to find all the jobs in Australia on the job search websites. However, they're not all there. You might have heard of something called the hidden job market, which is where what some people estimate up to 90% of jobs are found. The hidden job market are all the jobs that aren't advertised. So these are found elsewhere, and many people don't know where to look and where to go for these jobs. So they apply through the job search websites and they wonder why they're not having much response or much luck. And it's quite often because either their CV's letting them down or they aren't opening themselves to all the opportunities that are available. Most people underestimate the value of a really good CV, and they think if my CV has all the information about my work history, and some people go as far as listing how many kids they have, whether they're married, what religion they are. It's not necessary in Australia to include those kinds of things. Because I've got a background in recruitment and human resources, I know what it's like when you're advertising a job and you'll receive hundreds of CVs and you have to screen them somehow. So quite often you'll make up your mind in the first 5 seconds probably actually. And if I don't like what I see, moving on to the next one, and that's kind of what happens. And it's a bit sad because people don't realise that. So with a CV, it's very important what you put on the first page. A lot of people complain to me about recruitment consultants being really unhelpful, especially people applying from overseas. And there's a few reasons for that. It's not because they're horrible people. I was one. I don't consider myself horrible. They are human beings and they're just like you and me, but they do have a job they have to do. Unfortunately, it quite often means that they're unhelpful to people such as yourselves. The reason for that is because they have to have a quick turnover with filling jobs, and they have their targets to meet. So you might look really good for a role that they're advertising, but if they really like your CV but then they see you're not in Australia yet, or maybe you need a visa before you can come out to Australia, then they'll consider that's in the too hard basket. How am I going to sell you to an employer if the employer might have to go through the whole visa sponsoring process, for example, or even to wait as long as it would take for you to tie up your loose ends and then move out. So quite often they're not very helpful, and it's not because they don't like you. I would actually suggest avoiding recruitment consultants as much as possible. If you see a job that's advertised by a recruitment consultant, try and find out who the company is that they're trying to hire for and approach the company directly. That would be my biggest advice to you. If there's no way of getting around that and it's a job that you just think is fantastic and your ideal job, so you don't want to let it go, then I would suggest applying for the job and contacting the agent, following up with a phone call, having a chat to them and being honest about your situation and getting personal with them, because if you build a relationship with them, they're more likely to help you. Just don't bother them too often, because if you phone every week, they might just get annoyed and decide not to help you. But if you phone, and ask permission if you can stay in touch, because they may not have a company that wants to sponsor you at this stage, but it might come up in the future. Sometimes people apply for jobs from overseas and they're not actually ready to relocate yet. So they might be suitable for a job and the company's really interested in them, and they say, when can you move out? And the person says 3 months. And the company doesn't want to wait that long. So quite often they'll make their excuses and you're out of the game. A lot of people apply for jobs before they're actually ready to move. And I know it's a scary thing, actually just quitting your job and going on a whim like that and hoping something will come up. But you actually are more likely to find something if you do that. Also, a lot of people aren't willing to go out to Australia as part of their job search or to attend an interview. Either because they can't get the time off work or they don't want to spend the money to go out there just in case it doesn't work out, and that can count them out of the game as well. Yeah, also being willing to go out to Australia as part of your job search is very powerful, because you can actually meet with employers in person and make a bigger impact than just a piece of paper. You're not just relying on your CV to work for you then. And a lot of people I know have found jobs that way, just by going out for 2 weeks, say, and really making that time count for them. And I go into a bit of detail on how to do that in my Find Jobs in Australia package. A lot of people ask, is it really possible to find employer sponsorship in Australia? And I suppose because they're not having success and they don't know anyone else who has. Because I've been working in this field for so long, I've personally helped people find employer sponsorship. Plus, I've been involved with people or been in contact with people who have found employer sponsorship. And the Find Jobs in Australia e-packages I've put together actually are based on all the success stories and all the strategies that other people have used that have worked for them. Most people just don't know how to find employer sponsorship. And so it's basically just learning how to do it and then applying the strategies yourself until you reach your goal. So I've spent many years helping people find employer sponsorship or just a job after they've received their permanent residency for Australia. I've always asked myself, how can I be more helpful to people? Because so many people, they just don't know where to start. Or they don't have the funds to employ someone or pay a consultant to do it for them. Quite often when people apply the strategies after they've learned them themselves, they find more success than if someone was to do it for them. And I think because they're putting their own energy and intent into the job search, it seems to really make a difference than if they're simply employing someone to do it for them and checking in every now and then. They're actually putting their own energy into it, and it makes a huge difference. I'm so confident that the Find Jobs in Australia packages will increase the chance of you finding a job in Australia, that I'm willing to give you your money back if you're not satisfied. You need to apply all the strategies in the book, and if you do that and are not happy with your results, I will give you your money back. LinkedIn is such a goldmine for job opportunities that I wrote an entire book just on that strategy. When I first created the book, I gave it to a client as a gift, and he'd been getting no results from his job search prior to that. And he contacted me shortly after to say that he's had 2 or 3 interviews from LinkedIn alone. Since then, I've developed the LinkedIn strategy and written an entire book about it, which is soon to be released on Amazon. The reason why it's so powerful is because of the networking. Most of the companies in Australia are on LinkedIn, and a lot of them use it to find people, actually, rather than advertising the jobs, or as well as advertising the jobs on job search websites. So you will be able to actually contact the people who are looking for the jobs. It's a way to get around recruiters. If you're not on LinkedIn, I suggest that should be the first thing that you do when you've finished watching this video, is to sign up and complete your profile and just start to get familiar with it. And when you're ready, you can read the guide and apply the strategies in the guide to get you on your way. The problem with just applying for jobs through job search websites is that not only are you missing out on all the opportunities that are in the hidden job market, but your CV mightn't actually be getting through to the employer who's looking to fill the role. And the reason for that is probably two, actually. One, it's a recruitment consultant who's advertising the job, and two, there's a screening process, especially through, I know Seek.com have a screening process. So when you apply for a job, before you submit your CV, it asks you a few questions. And for instance, do you have working rights for Australia? And of course you have to be honest. So if you say no, then your CV probably won't go through to the hiring manager. And so you could be applying for hundreds of jobs and maybe 5% getting through, possibly. And that's only if they're not asking that question. So that's probably a huge reason why people don't get much response when they apply through job search websites. There is a way to get around it. So if you see a job that you like and it's a company advertising, take the company details and apply through. Sometimes they'll have an email address that they'll on the job ad. Rather apply directly through there, because then you can get around those questions and you'll go straight to the person. If those aren't there, look up the company, try and get hold of an email address or a HR department, and even if it means phoning up the company to find out, and that way you can get your CV through. I've talked a bit about the hidden job market, and a lot of people don't really know what it is or understand it, and so I'll just give you a little bit of an idea of what it is. It's basically the jobs that aren't being advertised on the job search website. So quite often people or companies will fill a role because they know someone who knows someone who knows someone, and that person gets the job and they don't even have to advertise. So it's word of mouth quite often, networking, hence LinkedIn, why that's so important. If you're just applying through the job search websites, you're missing out on a huge number of jobs that are in the hidden job market. And if you'd like to know more about it, just skip forward to the How to Find Jobs in Australia main guide, and you can get all the information there that you need on how to use it to your advantage. My biggest advice to people, especially if they've been applying for jobs for a long time and they're not getting the results that they're looking for, is not to give up. It can be a long-term project finding a job, especially if you're applying from overseas, and giving up will be your sure way to fail. Quite often somebody gives up just before they're about to find that job, and you just keep focused on it and where you want to be, and hold that vision in your head of the lifestyle you want in Australia and the ideal job that you'd love to be working in. Then ignore all the rejection letters that you might receive, or even the non-response, which can sometimes be worse. Just ignore them, stay focused, and just keep at it. And remember that it's better to apply many strategies than to just use one, because it spreads the risk in a way, kind of like investing, and you'll get there eventually. The best way to use the Find Jobs in Australia package is to start with the main guide, the How to Find Jobs in Australia guide. If you start with the main guide, it will help you progress through each strategy. It'll tell you when to refer to the other books, and so basically just work through that main guide and just follow the steps. It's as easy as that. So the main guide will go through each of the strategies. There's the mainstream strategies, which is using the recruitment agencies and job search websites, and then the hidden job market strategies goes into a lot of detail about the different strategies that you can use there to tap into that hidden job market. And at the end of the book you'll have some success stories that you can read as well to learn how other people did it and how they found their success, and the tips that they actually give to you, things that they learnt along the way to make your job search easier. The other books that are included are the resume guide and the cover letter guide. Both of those guides come with templates for you to use that have all been proven and tested in the Australian job market, and people have had success with them. And so basically the books will tell you and actually help you select the best template for you based on your occupation and colour preferences as well. I use a bit of psychology and colour, and all the templates are my own design, which, as I mentioned earlier, are based around that first 5 seconds that somebody looks at your CV. So makes sure that all the information an employer needs or a recruiter needs is on that first page, so that they can really want to learn more about you instead of tossing you aside. Both the resume and the cover letter books also go through steps to help you create both documents, and also go into a bit of detail if you need to find employer sponsorship, how to approach an employer about that, the right way to do it so you're not scaring them off. There's the LinkedIn strategy guide, which is included, which will help you set up your LinkedIn profile, how to use LinkedIn. It'll go through all the different ways it can help you connect with the right people, and how to connect with an employer that you would like to work for, how to use groups, how to network, and how to be really effective when you're using LinkedIn. There's a job search tracker document that you'll receive as part of the package, which will help you keep your job search organised, so you can track each job that you're applying for, which is really important because many people apply for hundreds of jobs and then somebody phones and says, oh, we got your CV, and oh, what got you interested in this job? And you can't remember because you applied for 100, whereas if you put it all in the document, somebody phones, you quickly look up the company, you say, oh, and that's why I liked it, and this is what it's paying, and I applied on this date. And so that document is really helpful and will help you sound like you know what you're talking about when people phone. I've also included a database of recruitment agencies separated by occupation, so that if you do decide to try them out, and my main guide tells you how to do that most effectively, then you can look up the recruitment agencies that I recommend. I've included some boutique ones as well, because they're more likely to help you than the bigger ones like Hayes and such. So that's just to help you so you don't have to find all the recruitment agencies yourself. It's all there in one database for you.